Well, we'll just get started now. Well, thank you all for joining. Welcome to the Career Exploration webinar. My name is Edgar Castillo, and I'm the host and moderator for today's discussion. A few housekeeping items before we begin. Please keep yourselves on mute during the presentation. We invite all of you to participate and ask questions through the chat. We will be sharing all of our resources and information through the chat if anyone has any questions. The presentation is being recorded and will be posted in the session rooms where you went to launch all of this work at the ACC website. Let me begin and share my screen as well. Little technical difficulties here. So I'll begin by introducing all of our panelists right now. First up, we have Robin Willis. She is the Associate Vice President of Talent Pipeline Strategies of the Charleston Metro Chamber of Commerce. Robin will be speaking today on the Mapping Your Path programming planning tool that will help you understand the best pathways to build the career folks want in the Charleston area. We also have Ron Ottinger, who's the Executive Director of STEM Next Opportunity Fund, who will be presenting on the Million Girls Moonshot, which seeks to reimagine and who can engineer and inspire and prepare the next generation of innovators by engaging 1 million more girls in STEM learning opportunities through after school and summer programs over the next 5 years. Last but not least, we have Corinne, who's a Senior Director of Economic Vitality at the Boulder Chamber, who'll be speaking on the Boulder Together program, a strategic multi-year initiative of the Boulder Chamber designed to address 3 areas of economic and community need around workforce housing, workforce development, and workforce mobility. And with that, I will turn it over to Robin to share and begin her presentation.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to share my screen and we will hope that this works as it's supposed to. Here we go. So we were asked to report today on some material we did for our student and parent Career Academy audiences, and we called that report Mapping Your Path. So while this content may be really hyperlocal to the Charleston area, the premise behind it is, I think, really universal to any chambers that are doing work in the education and talent arena. And I'm sure you guys will all agree. I'm preaching to the choir here. So for high school students choosing next steps after graduation, there isn't just one route to get there. What we hope they choose is a high demand living wage career that has opportunities for promotion along the way. And all the adults in the room and anybody working in this work in the chamber world knows that the way there does not always have to pass through a 4-year degree, that there's lots of other routes to get there. Something else that is universal to all of our work, I think, is that students in our communities, when they sit down to say they're in a CTE program that's IT or health, when they sit down to say, how am I going to get there? There's an overwhelming amount of data when it comes to choosing the pathway to get there. So here's an example of the actual ocean that you can get drawn into when you start searching for careers. Let's just look on Indeed and look in the Charleston area. And when we pulled this search, there were almost 12,000 options in the Charleston area. That makes my head swim just thinking about it. If you go to Google, put in Charleston career, you get 49 million. So you can see where they might go down a rabbit hole and look at some options, but at some point, they very likely will just get a little bit stuck. So let's look at some of the other opportunities that a student might have just in our area, and your area would be very similar to this. This is some of the career pathways and educational programs they could do if they stayed in town. And this, of course, doesn't include if they went out to your states or into the upstate. So that's over 500 programs of study right here in our region. So this was a graphic that we thought just perfectly related, how it might feel if you're 17 or 18 years old and you're thinking, I really like the healthcare pathway. How the heck am I going to get to where I want to go? Or I really like IT. There's even more to look at. So part of what we hoped to create was just a simplified graphic that would kind of give them a little bit of a roadmap, just a little bit of a simplified look at all of the options. This is a great quote: learning to choose is hard, and learning to choose well is even harder. Learning to choose well in a world of unlimited possibilities is harder still, perhaps too hard, especially if you're 16, 17, 18 years old. So some other options, some other information that we hoped that this report would really serve the student and adult and parent population that we wanted to speak to, is that we all know there's not enough information provided about the in-between pathways between graduation and a four-year degree. What is all that stuff in the middle? So we hoped that that would serve that need. We also know that our teachers in the classroom are very good at their jobs, but they don't know average wages and occupational pathways quite as well. That's not part of their need to know information. And when they are in high school and students are thinking about careers, this is an added tool that we can give the teachers to use. We also know that the emerging workforce may not know how to connect. So we hope this will provide a connection in a real world, you'll see in a second, a real world stepping stones. And then as an aside, almost after we got the report done, we realized that the information could also serve adults looking to upskill, hoping to get back into the workforce, or just wanting to kind of pivot their skills. And we have found that they have reported that this has been good information for them as well. So we hope that this report is just a GPS. And we know students and adults, everybody can now relate to a GPS. It knows that it's going to give them a map to get to where they want to go. So I'll quit talking about the report and show it to you. We divided it out into 6 industry sectors. In our region, these are the high demand occupations that we have. So that's how we culled those down. We did research with 17 employers. We gave them this information before we printed it and said, can you please verify that these are real options that would occur in your industry? And you'll see that 17 of them did either give us feedback or say, yes, this absolutely serves students working in those fields. We worked with CALE, which is the Council for Adult and Experiential Learning out of Chicago. I'm sure many of you are familiar with them. We had worked with them also on some previous reports. And then we were very glad to have some funding support from Wells Fargo Foundation and the South Carolina Department of Commerce. So here is the template that each of those 6 industries, this is how they were laid out. And I'm going to go through some of the clusters of information that we provided in there. So in the top middle of each of the pages, we provided the talent demand information that we had on that industry. We do a talent demand study every 2 years. We just published the 2020 edition, and again, refresh that information every 2 years. We use this information daily, and our schools have started to use this information daily as well. So for the healthcare sector, these were the details that were going to be valuable to students. And we also didn't want to give them a 6-page report on the talent demand study. We really wanted a snapshot. So this is just a snapshot there. And that would occur in this, this is where the talent demand information would be. Next, we did construction occupations. I don't know about you, but in our region, this is a really loud group of people that are telling us they need lots of help with their workforce. So up in the top left corner, we did in each section of what can I do now? And remember that this report, the audience for this report was primarily students. So this what can I do now is things that they could start while they're in high school to prepare themselves for a construction job, certainly things apart from their own CTE curriculum that they could take at their school. And then there was a window of continuing ed information that was from our community college. So we went to them and said, what can students do and what can young adults do, or adults upskilling? And we put that information in the Do It Quick window. Another of the fields that we looked at was in our region, culinary hospitality is a big driver. It's an industry that needs a lot of workforce and is constantly needing to be refreshed. So down in the roadway area, each of the stops along the way showed certifications that you could get in our region, where you might go to get that certification, how long it might take, and about what you'd earn once you got a certification. So these are some of the jobs that certification might lead you into. And we're repeating the information here under the associate's degree area. And again, these jobs that lined up here were things that the HR department said, yes, those are absolutely jobs you could have after a certification or after an associate's degree. Now, the next category was IT and technology. There's not a chamber in the United States that doesn't have a strong IT and technology need in their region. So over on the right-hand column on each of the pages, we put the skills needed for a job in this industry. You can see they were broken out into the soft skills that we hear talked about a lot. And we pulled that information from industry input that had been done the year before in a report called Common Skills and High Demand. And that information I could send to anybody, or you can find on our website. The next pathway was business. And to me, the most important piece that I'll point out about each of the pages is that we did not want a triangle hierarchy to show this is where you start as a student, and those that succeed and win end up here and win a four-year degree. We didn't want that. We wanted an on purpose meandering roadway that doesn't necessarily show that you've won when you get to the end. So for adults upskilling or students not wanting to go straight to a four-year degree, they might come over here after high school. We have youth apprentice options in our region, so that could be one stop along the road. We have certification options that, of course, all of our community colleges have. And then you hit the associate's degree and the bachelor's degree. So we really wanted them to see these as options and stepping stones and along the pathway that you might take. The last page was manufacturing, and in this bottom right corner of all the pages, we showed the employers that we had talked to. We gave them the data that you see on all the pages and just really asked for very up to the minute feedback. We wanted all the information there to be really valid and up to the minute, and an actual commonplace pathway that somebody might take through their company. We didn't want this to be just we wanted this to be for the biggest group of students that we're running through, if that makes sense. We were trying to show you the video earlier and it wasn't working for us, so I'm going to put the video link in the chat box. And if anybody has questions about mapping your path or the video that we show, just reach out and let me know.
Perfect. So with that, I'll pass it on to Ron to begin his presentation. Let's see, we could share your screen right now.
Thanks, Edgar.
Perfect.
Jesse, do you have control? Hopefully. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much, Edgar. I'm Ron Ottinger. I'm an executive director of STEM Next Opportunity Fund, which is the legacy organization of Robert Noyce, the co-founder of Intel. And it's great to be here again. We've done several webinars with ACCE about our partnership with the Mott Foundation statewide after-school networks and our STEM work with the networks. A number of you who are on the webinar today have been connecting with your networks in the 50 states. And it's great to be here today to talk about Million Girls Moonshot and career pathways. So what is the Moonshot movement and what makes it unique from other STEM career pathways initiatives you may have heard of? The Million Girls Moonshot seeks to reimagine, as Edgar said, who can engineer, who can build, and who can make. We aim to inspire and prepare the next generation of innovators, and particularly from an equity lens and a focus on young girls. So why do we need a moonshot? Well, the first, which you all know well, is our talent shortage. And we have to do so much more to meet the employer demand, and particularly the diversity that we know and equity that we know is so critical. It's Robin just said, the jobs requiring STEM skills are growing, and we need to make sure there are enough qualified candidates to fill them. And we've heard this from chambers throughout the country as we worked with ACCE over the last few years. We unfortunately continue to leave behind an incredibly powerful asset that could keep us competitive. Women make up half the total US college-educated workforce, but less than a third of the science and engineering workforce. And that number is even lower for women of color. The other reason we launched Moonshot, very much related to the first, is to address the systemic barriers that exist for girls in general and for girls of color, in particular, to pursue STEM interests. You may not know, but there is a huge exposure gap. By the time kids reach the 6th grade, middle-class students have likely spent 6,000 more hours being exposed to science, technology, music, art, and other activities than kids born into poverty. And that translates from research into about 5 years of schooling. 75% of Latina and Black students attend high poverty schools, and these schools provide fewer resources to young girls who are low income and girls of color. And of course, they end up being underprepared for the workforce. And girls with less educated parents or low socioeconomic status, we know are not pursuing that advanced STEM coursework in high school. I know these are statistics that are not new to you, but they really speak to, as we hear from our leadership throughout the 50 states, why we need to focus on young girls and why we need to focus on low-income girls in particular. So what makes the Million Girls Moonshot unique? And what makes it unique is the what and the where. First, I'll tell you a little bit about the what. The aspect of Moonshot that differentiates it from other STEM-related efforts, and what we're most excited about, is that it's really focusing on an engineering mindset. It doesn't mean that all young girls over the 5 years, as we reach out to 1 million more girls, will end up with in an engineering pathway. They may end up in another STEM field or pathway, but the thinking like an engineer is so critical. And that's why engineering mindset is so important. The notion of an engineering mindset was developed by Christine Cunningham, who's the award-winning founding director of Engineering as Elementary and the after-school version, Engineering Adventures. She and colleagues developed Engineering as Elementary, which a number of you may know, It's a curriculum to help children from 1st through 8th grades develop an engineering and technology literacy. She served as vice president at the National Center for Technological Literacy at the Museum of Science, Boston. And she now heads a similar group at Penn State University. Christine found that children have a natural, and you've seen this too in your work, have a natural ability to solve problems around them, a necessary skill in engineering. With this in mind, Christine was focused on developing a framework, engineering mindset, that allows children to tap into their own curiosity in the world around them while developing skills as natural problem solvers. So what you see here are the 10 practices that really make up what we're focusing on as an engineering mindset, which is so critical for a 21st century jobs and for the economy. And then there's the where, another differentiator for Million Girls Moonshot. Million Girls Moonshot will be implemented locally in after-school and summer learning programs in all 50 states. And research tells us why the where matters. Children spend less than 20% of their waking hours in school. After-school STEM can almost double the amount of time some students have to question, tinker, learn, and explore STEM topics and careers. High-quality after-school STEM experiences cultivate interest, they build real STEM skills, they build STEM identity, and they help kids connect STEM to their lives and to future careers. And after-school STEM, in the highest quality cases, actually boosts students' proficiency in math and science, increases their likelihood of graduation, increases attendance, and puts them on a path to pursuing a career in STEM fields. After school can be particularly transformative for girls and their STEM trajectory. And here's why. Their culturally responsive program design really matters. Girls want to work on socially and community relevant projects. That's key. They need to interact with role models and mentors so they can build a STEM identity and they can understand that these are careers that can happen for them. And we need to empower and engage their families. Too often we've seen, and we know from research by Public Agenda, that many families have developed the attitude, well, STEM is critical and important, just not for me or my child. It's for the smart kids. We need all kids to be involved, as you know. So engaging with families so that they're encouraging their daughters early is so critical. We'll reach girls in after school by leveraging the Mott Foundation's 50-state after-school network, a long-standing partner of STEM Next, and over the last several years with ACCE. For more than 15 years, the Charles Stewart Mott Foundation has made investments in networks of diverse organizations and champions who come together to build public will and systems for after school and summer learning. And now every state has a network which fosters partnerships and policies to develop, support, and sustain high-quality opportunities for children and youth. Each state network includes its Department of Education and its multi-sector. It's an ecosystem. It includes youth development, K-12, business, higher education, library systems, media outlets, and others. But as you can see from this slide, Moonshot isn't just about transformative, equity-focused programming. Million Girls Moonshot is a movement that leverages and supports the interests of multiple stakeholders who care about this issue, and especially and including chambers. To give you a sense of the partners who are involved in Million Girls Moonshot, first we wanted to show you our coalition partners to date. Many of the major and funding partners, you'll recognize many of these. One that you might not have heard of is the Lyda Hill Foundation's If Then initiative. Their website has over 100 profiles of STEM ambassadors who are women and how they found their way into their career paths. We also wanted to tell you about some of our initial coalition partners. It was really neat, and Lights On After School, which is in every state and community in the country. We had a NASA women astronaut do an activity to kids and families throughout the country. So we're very pleased to have NASA join us. We have the professional organizations in engineering, SWE and SHIP and NSBE. We have the Association of Science and Technology Centers, which represents all the science centers and museums. And as another example, the National Center for Women Information and Technology, which you may have heard of. So where do chambers come in, and how might you get connected? Here's just a few thoughts. Bringing diversity, equity, and inclusion lens to the work you're doing, which most of you, if not all of you, are already doing, is something that is a special expertise of the Mott Foundation statewide after-school networks, and a major reason why the Noyce Foundation, now its legacy STEM Next Opportunity Fund, are working with the Mott networks. So we have a specialty in working with programs and programming that focuses on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Quality is so critical, and we have been working with ACCE to get local after-school programs connected with their chambers in a way that, and through Moonshot, that can successfully cultivate an engineering mindset among girls in your area. And then leveraging the state's after-school network. Chambers around the country are already working with the Mott statewide after-school network to create career pathways and partnerships. Past and current examples include the Junior Leadership Casper in Wyoming and Greater Spokane's Business After School in Washington State. Others can be found on ACCE's website. Tessie Topol, who is our business partnership consultant who came out of Time Warner Cable and led their CSR work. We're very fortunate to have as our consultant in this work, and she and Edgar have been working closely to coordinate meaningful connections between chambers and the Mott networks, and now with Million Girls Moonshot. So thank you all. Look forward to answering any questions.
Thanks, Ron, and we'll pass it on to Corinne next.
Thank you. So it's a little bit different. Both the previous presenters talked about specific programs. We're, as a chamber, we kind of re-envisioned what we did as a chamber a little bit a couple years ago. We said, okay, let's look at our role as catalysts, conveners, and champions, and ask our businesses in our community in Boulder what their biggest problems and issues were. So we convened hundreds of businesses together and said, what's your biggest issue? What are your top concerns? What are the things that are keeping you from maximizing what you can do in our community? And we have a very strong economy, but how can we be stronger? And top thing was workforce. And what came out of it were three things: workforce development, workforce housing, and workforce mobility. And so, I'm going to concentrate mostly on workforce development today, but because that's kind of what we're talking about today, but, I'm just going to breeze over the workforce housing and transportation. So we really kind of created this program called Boulder Together that's tackling the challenges of today for a brighter, bolder future. It's business-led initiative that really looks at workforce, and it's business investing in their solutions. So they lead a lot of the initiatives. They're part of the solution, and we really wanted to have them at the table in the community, talking about the biggest issues facing them. So looking at it that way, the workforce housing, a lot of words on this page. Basically, there's not a lot of workforce housing in the area. Average cost of a house, median cost of a house in Boulder is $1 million. It's not real accessible for someone in an entry-level position. Big hurdle to overcome. But business needs to be at the table for this. Workforce mobility, whether it's teleworking or the ability, you can't live there. How do you get here? How are we at the table to make sure that business is at the table when we're talking infrastructure and mobility solutions, so that we're there when we're talking about advocacy issues, RTD, our regional transportation, alternative and mobility solutions. We want business at the table. The last piece is that workforce development piece. We know that our economy is strong. But we had a huge skills gap. The number of jobs available in Boulder did not match up with the workforce that was available. We have aerospace, bioscience, clean tech, natural products, IT, outdoor industry, research. We have a lot of STEM jobs. But we also have 12% of our economy being manufacturing. We have a highly educated workforce. 78.2% of the Boulder County residents have a bachelor's degree or higher. We had a supply and demand problem. So we needed to work together as businesses, the education, workforce development, all of it, to figure out how we can help create a better supply into those jobs and also have businesses part of the solution. So our workforce development goal was this: to drive collaborative community-wide partnerships to define Boulder's workforce development needs and develop the talent pool using our training and recruitment strategies to meet our demand. And we wanted business at the table. It wasn't just education developing these solutions. It was business at the table with education, with our workforce system, with K through 12, with our community colleges. We wanted them there and helping to have a voice. And we thought the chamber would play a really great role. And the businesses also agreed because they invested in Boulder Together to have that role. So the key strategies and within workforce development fell under 3 main areas. There are other areas too, but for today's conversation, we fall under education, research, and data. Inform what the needs are and what the opportunities are. Tell our education system what the top jobs are, what the top skills are needed, what the top pathways we needed were for the jobs that were available in our community. Inform our businesses some of the pathways that are coming out of our community college systems. Let them know about some of the amazing programs we have right here in our community. So there was the data component, identifying the skills gap. I mean, nobody had sat down and said, oh, where is that gap? Looking at some of those pathways, as Robin had mentioned in her presentation, looking at those in points and out points, those opportunities to get into a career and a pathway. We convene partnerships. Chambers are really good convening authorities. We're really good at convening people. So why weren't we going to play that role right now? We were being asked to play that role. We convene businesses, we convene education, workforce, and economic development. We created the vehicles to create agile and responsive action teams. And then we created direct, short, and long-term programs. And I'll give some examples of those coming up. So those convening of partnerships, the first thing we did was we created what's called a Boulder County Talent Collaborative. It is, and I show a graphic on the right, which is who makes that up. It's the chamber, we're the chair, but we have both our school districts, our community college, our university, the state, economic development partners, as well as other chambers. And we meet monthly. We do not miss a meeting. We meet monthly because we all need to be on the same page. We can't all be talking to businesses separately. We need to be working together and be responsive to business needs. We can't hear about a business who needs workforce, has workforce issues, and then have each school district contact them, and then have the community college contact them, and then the workforce system contact them, and then the university contact them. No, we need to work together on a solution for that industry or a solution for that business. And it's been really great, and businesses have responded. And from that group, we've launched things like sector partnerships, which are industry-led groups. We've launched apprenticeships. We've launched job fairs. We've launched nonprofit solutions. So from that group we've created, and it's been one of the best things that we've done, is gotten all on the same page. If you talk to any of us, if any business were to go to any of us, we'd point to all of us. And I think that's one of the best lessons learned that we've had, is that we are together and that we're agile and responsive. And that's sometimes not easy to say about a workforce system, is being agile and responsive. And to be able to say that we're convening and we do not miss a meeting. And I think that's important. And in the sector partnership area, we broke kind of some of the rules in Colorado. We weren't our own sector, but we said we need to come up with some local solutions. So we launched a tech sector, a healthcare sector, a manufacturing sector, and a professional services sector. And really what a sector partnership is industry coming together to create industry solutions. So we've had things like, we need a recruitment strategy for tech workers, or we need an apprenticeship program in healthcare, and I'll cover this in a second, or we need a job shadowing program in manufacturing. And they drive that solution, and us partners, we help manage and convene it, or we help support it, but business is driving it, which means it's going to push forward because business wants it. And then the last one is Road to Work Boulder. It's those we help support some nonprofit programs that help place people into work, whether it be our mental health partners or our workforce system or some other support organizations. So we didn't want to forget some of the other placement agencies. Another really big initiative that we've worked on is skills-based hiring. We are the skills-based hiring trainer in the entire region. We thought this was a good role for the chamber, and so did our businesses. We think it's a foundational tool to any program that we do, and we partnered with Skillful Colorado, a Markle Foundation initiative, and we actually invested in a trainer on our staff. Businesses told us this was a big deal. It's a 4-part training series on job postings, interviewing, selection and onboarding, and retention. And really what it does is it helps show businesses that when you hire based on skills and not just on proxies, years experience, a degree, you're helping to open the funnel on the front end. You're helping to get the candidates that you want to get. You're helping to open the door to work-based learning opportunities, apprenticeships, internships. And it's become a foundational program to a lot of things that we do. We've exposed over 1,000 businesses to this concept, trained over 250 businesses. In fact, we've gone in and trained entire companies and in 500 individuals. So it's a program that's been kind of foundation to what we do. We also do a lot of youth apprenticeship programs. We've partnered with CareerWise Colorado on advanced manufacturing, financial services, business operations, healthcare, education, youth apprenticeships for 16 to 18-year-olds. I have to say, in Colorado, we're not the highlight program of this. If they're on the call or if they hear about it, Vail Valley Partnership in Colorado is really our role model for youth apprenticeships. But it's something it's a tool we brought to Boulder through Boulder Together to allow businesses the opportunity to do youth apprenticeships. And both our school districts are signed up for it. We also had businesses invest in teacher externship program. We've launched out of the chamber an externship program over the summer to allow teachers to go in for a month to learn how to do manufacturing or learn how to do financial services or healthcare, so they can go back to the classroom and we're not just relying on counselors to give career pathway advice. And then we've invested in job shadowing. Businesses have invested in a job shadowing program, and we've supported the program infrastructure. And then finally, some adult work-based learning programs that have come out of some of these programs that we've developed is that the chamber is actually a sponsor of an apprenticeship program. We built the infrastructure through Boulder Together to sponsor a medical assistant apprenticeship program. I don't need medical assistants, but a lot of my healthcare providers in the area did. And instead of each of them applying for an apprenticeship by themselves, we created a collaborative community model under Boulder Together and under our sector partnership, in which we developed one intermediary model where they agreed on the competencies, and it's supported by the community college. And now we can have multiple employers, large and small, enter at any time into this apprenticeship model. And it's been a great model. It's been an amazing opportunity. And now we're going to expand it into sterile processing in healthcare. And we're looking at 12 potential occupations in IT that we can have multiple employers in our community. And it's supported by the workforce system and our community college. and our local school districts, again, coming out of that collaborative effort. So we're really excited about this. And what I'm doing is I'm investing in some of the infrastructure, but it's benefiting all of my businesses in the area. And then the last thing is our school districts have really now started to listen to businesses and partner with businesses on what the career pathways are for those businesses. And we have businesses sitting on every one of their strategic planning committees talking about skills and talking about pathways. And we've made a big push for this. So that's Boulder Together in a nutshell. Oh, stop sharing.
All right. Well, thank you all for presenting. And now we got into the Q&A portion of the presentation. And as we wait to see, I guess, either people typing in questions or have the confidence enough to unmute themselves and speak in front of the group, I do see one question from the very beginning of the presentation. I think it was directed at Robin. When she was speaking, but she wanted to hear a little bit more about the process of getting feedback from the employers. What did that look like? What did you really hear from them, and how did that go?
Yes, so we we reached out to the organizations that we talk to all the time, just as you would have those manufacturers that you talk to all the time, or those healthcare providers. We reach out to those guys almost exclusively to the really large employers, and ask that their HR departments pick it apart. So we sent the manufacturers the manufacturing page. We did not send everybody the whole package. We just really wanted them to pick apart their industry, and look and just tell us if you really could take the pathway that we'd written out. And in many cases, they did make recommendations, and we added those changes, and in some they just said you're good to go. So hopefully that answers your question.
Great.
So
Go ahead.
This is Nancy Eisenbrandt at the Nashville Chamber. I'm interested to know from all three panelists, how has the COVID pandemic and the changing, both in terms of what jobs are going to return, AI and automation, and sort of the challenges that we see in some sectors, how is that changing either the way you are delivering your work and or how you're thinking about those jobs that you need to be prepared for in the future?
We actually did another set of business input because we wanted to ask businesses how COVID has impacted them. So we've probably talked to another couple hundred businesses in our role as economic developers. And what we're hearing is that workforce development is still a huge issue. I mean, the people that have been laid off do not have the skills for the jobs that are still available in our economy. And that what we're also seeing is that digital adoption took a quantum leap in our economy. I mean, it probably sped up by 3 to 7 years. So some of those digital needs that we had in healthcare, in even in restaurants, is even being elevated. So that skill development is even greater. And what we noticed in our healthcare apprenticeship is that when everybody was put on stay at home, and even those people that were in the MA program at the community college had to stay at home, the people that were in the apprenticeship could go to work, and they could be redeployed in the hospital, and they could be put anywhere in the hospital. So now we have greater demand on our apprenticeship program than we ever did, because they now see this as an alternative training method. So we're seeing greater demand for our workforce development programs than we did prior to COVID right now. So we're having to beef up some of our staffing to meet the demand.
Robin, do you want to go next, or?
Go ahead, Ron.
Okay. Well, we have seen after school and summer programs pivot to virtual. Some of the partners who are part of Million Girls Moonshot already focus on virtual efforts. Technovation comes to mind. They work internationally with a focus on the US, of course, on helping girls and their families create mobile technology, and they're into AI as well. So they've also figured out how to bring in virtual mentors from companies so that mentors can and role models can work with young girls and families directly. So depending on where programs, after school programs are in the country, some, have opened up as schools have opened up. Some are doing a hybrid of virtual and in person. And then, of course, there are some states and communities where everything is still virtual. And the programs, especially those involved in Million Girls Moonshot, have pivoted to virtual. Robin?
Yeah, so I can say that we're, as you all are, we're in the process of taking all of our work-based learning opportunities virtual. The fact that the schools are doing such a are transitioning so much to their new needs means that the first part of semester we really weren't going to do any work-based learning opportunities. They needed to get on top of their other responsibilities. So the second half of first semester and second half and all of second semester are really going to be when all of our virtual work-based learning opportunities will happen.
Great, thank you. The next question I have is directed at Corinne. How do you attract employers to participate in the skills-based hiring training? What level executive do you target? And yep.
So actually, we went on a campaign talking about it at regular chamber events or in blogs or newsletters, and we started with data, data saying things like 22% of all administrative assistants in the area have a 4-year degree, but 78% of all job postings require it, or those types of data. We would bring it up at regular events or do one-on-one conversations with companies. And like I said, we exposed to about 1,000 companies before we even launched the first training series. At that point, we started, and we also made sure that it was SHRM accredited. So it was targeted at first at HR. They would start coming. Then they would bring their CEO. Then they would bring the entire executive staff. And then they would bring us in to start talking to the entire company or the hiring team. At one point, we were brought in to train the entire city of Boulder hiring staff. It was over 400 people. So anybody that had a hiring role in the city of Boulder or Boulder County had some sort of training in skills-based hiring, whether it was interviewing or job postings, just to understand the philosophy of it. Even if they said, I understand it, we do it. So we went on a campaign just to kind of educate people on what it really was. And that even if you said, we already do this. We said, well, let's say, do you? It's more than just saying we hire based on skills. Do you interview on it? Do you actually hire based on it? Do you onboard and do you retain people and train them based on skills so that you're actually doing the full spectrum of skills-based hiring? It's not the end-all solution, but it is a tool in the toolkit that everybody can use to help in the process.
Perfect. I do see that, Corinne, you did answer this question in the chat, but to Robin and maybe even Ron as well, what sources are you using for your economic basis for growing fields? I did see in the chat that Corinne did say QCW, BLS, EMSI, and Burning Glass data. But I don't know if Robin, you have anything more to add to that?
Yeah, I'm going to throw this to Tina Worth, my boss, who's on the call here. Hey, Tina, tell them what she is responsible for our talent demand study and just release the 2020 information.
Yeah, thanks, Robin. You know, we were really fortunate in that our state workforce system provides a reporting mechanism and actually tracks in real time the number of job postings and then the number of candidates in the system. So you can identify that you've got, 0.5 candidates for one job and you've got 8 candidates for another. And so we use MC and BLS and also the whatever the one that's called that's between the sentence status. So that's what we use for our main reporting. But what we were confronted with when we were doing our 2020 talent demand study was historical data is not going to do anything to predict where the trends are going to be, where the job's going to come back when they come back. So we were able to use real-time posting data. And I know there's some outside sources that do this. I think Help Wanted provides that. Burning Glass provides some of that as well. But for those of us who have to use modeling to try to project workforce demand, fresh data is king right now, because I think trying to model it off of historical data is going to yield different results. Whenever there's an economic downturn, the jobs when they come back are different jobs oftentimes. So we're on the constant hunt and lookout for ways to access real-time data.
And to add to it, we contract with our business research division at CU Boulder to kind of take the BLS or the QCEW or take that data and do high, medium, low forecasting, because to look at conditions. Let's say we're all put back into stay at home. How's this going to impact certain industries over others, and kind of come up with that forecasting how long it's going to take to recover based on certain conditions. So we're having to pay for some of that data as well in order to do some of this forecasting that we're not able to get in real time.
Great. Does anybody have, I guess, any last questions that they would like to ask the group? Nope. See none. I'll go ahead and help close out this meeting. So I want to thank everybody first who agreed to present on the call. So Corinne, Robin, and Ron, thank you all for taking the time out of your schedule to speak to the group and give so many great insights as well. I did want to let everybody know that this webinar is recording right now and will be uploaded to the ETD division page, along with the recorded webinars page on ACC's website. Thank you all for joining on today's call. If you are interested in any future calls as well, you're always welcome to check ACC's website and look at the calendar of events. Our next ETD roundtable call is scheduled for November 18th from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern time. We also have a webinar coming up on December 12th on the education and talent trends, looking back and looking forward webinar, scheduled for December 12th from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern time. And as always, if you have any questions about this webinar specifically, or the ETD division overall, feel free to reach out to me in my email at ecastillo@acc.org. If you want to get in touch with any of the speakers, or you have any other particular questions, specific questions, feel free to reach out to any of them, or reach out to me, and I'll make sure you have their contact info and point you to the right direction. But with that, I just want to say thank you all again for joining on today's call, and that will conclude our today's session. Thank you very much, and hope you all have a great day.